What up, Raf leaders? Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to give you an update on the Natural Resource Fund, the Sovereign Wealth Fund, Guyana's Sovereign Wealth Fund. It's that time of year again when we see the release of the Bank of Guyana quarterly report, and this year's first quarter shows that the Sovereign Wealth Fund contains $267 million. Now I released a previous video where I showed that by calculating using the numbers from the contract, by calculating the profit Guyana will earn, Guyana is expected to reach $1 billion by March 31st, 2023. Right? So I used the current production rate as well as the price of oil, projecting it to be somewhere around around $70 a barrel, and using the 14.25% revenue, that is 14.25% of total revenue Guyana gets, Guyana can expect to receive 800,000 US dollars in the next 2 years, and be expected to have $1 billion in our sovereign wealth fund by the year 2023. That's just 2 years from now. Now, this quarterly report comes at the end of the first year of the pandemic, so it would be expected to be affected by the low value of the price of oil. But two things happened in the first quarter. One is that the price of oil rebounded to $66 a barrel, so now the price of oil is around $66 a barrel. That's Brent crude, the kind of oil that we produce in Guyana, so trading at $66 a barrel. And secondly, the government of Guyana intervened to sell oil to India at a reduced price. Word has it that they sold 1 million barrels of oil to India for about $19 million when they should have sold for over $60 a barrel, right? So these two things can affect the total revenue that we receive, because one is, my calculation did not take into account the fact that the Guyana government and politicians can sort of get in between the trade, the markets, and try to divert funds away from the sovereign wealth fund. In fact, that should be illegal, right? It should not be, politicians should not be able to go in there and affect the sale of oil by simply diverting money from the sovereign wealth fund to India, for example, right, by giving them $40 million, which apparently was for the sale of vaccines to Guyana, right? So what they essentially did is they reduced the amount of money that should have gone into the sovereign wealth fund by selling oil cheaper than market in exchange for vaccines. Now that's rumor. I don't know if that's a fact, but that's what has happened. That's what the rumor says. However, what we do know is that the sovereign wealth fund now contains $267 million after the first quarter of 2021, and it should not be off. It's not too far away from what is projected to be $1 billion in 2023, March 2023, March to June 2023. I will have to make recalculate the profit and revenue Guyana will earn in the next 2 years to see if we are still on target. But it's important to keep track of this information via the Bank of Guyana quarterly report, because it gives us the up-to-date and current information on the state of affairs as far as the sovereign wealth fund. Now, I've heard other people making negative statements about the politicians and their relationship with ExxonMobil. I do not make irrational statements. I do not make statements that cannot be proven. I had a lot of people arguing against me when I said that the contract with ExxonMobil was a good contract based on the numbers, based on mathematics, because that is how I work. I simply use the mathematics. I don't care what the politicians say or what the experts in the field think. Everything must be subject to mathematics, because numbers don't lie, right? It's basic accounting, and the basic accounting shows that Guyana gets 14.25% of the profits, and when you compare that to what other contracts exist around the world, that is actually well within the margin of good of the norm of the average. This was well within the average. So Guyana did not get a bad contract, and we're now sitting on $267 million. That's a quarter of $1 billion, well on our way to $1 billion in 2023. Now, the next development that happened is that Exxon has made further discoveries. This is like the 18th oil well that Exxon discovered in the first quarter. They discovered oil at a depth of over 6,000 feet. Now, if you did the math again, right, 5,280 feet is 1 mile. 5,280 feet, 1 mile. We learned from our math tables at the back of those blue textbooks that we had, blue exercise books that we had in primary school. There were all these multiplication tables that we had to memorize, and then there were all these facts and figures, right? So one of those facts and figures at the back of the blue exercise book was that 5,280 feet equal 1 mile. So we all know that 5,280 feet equal 1 mile, and therefore when oil was discovered at a depth of over 6,000 feet, it's over a mile deep in the ocean. And if you look around at all the other companies looking for oil in Guyana, CGX and 8 other companies, they have not discovered oil in commercial quantities, but Exxon has made 18 oil discoveries. And based on this fact alone, I have contended that the contract with ExxonMobil is a good contract, and I have not changed my position on that. Guyana got a good contract with ExxonMobil. It's right out there for everyone to read and interpret and understand, and I have given you my interpretation, my reading of the contract. You can go back, I'll put a link to the videos in which I showed I explained the oil contract. And now Exxon has discovered another oil well at over a mile deep in the ocean, bringing the total recoverable reserves in Guyana to 9 billion barrels of oil. That also means that Exxon will now increase its production rate. There's a new ship, a new SPFO, right? A new ship is going to be storing, floating platform for storage and offloading. A new ship will be recovering oil, bringing the total production, adding 220,000 barrels a day to oil production, bringing the total production to about 360,000 barrels a day. And my calculation shows that when that happens later on this year, right, in 2022, in fact, when that happens in 2022, Guyana will earn $1 billion every year. In other words, the Sovereign Wealth Fund will grow by $1 billion every year just from the inflow of profit oil after 2022, right? And that's because Exxon made a new discovery, and they're going ahead with plans to increase the production rate, right? So that's what's happening, guys. That's the update on what's happening with Guyana's Sovereign Wealth Fund and Guyana's oil production. We have now 18 oil wells operational by ExxonMobil, bringing our total recoverable oil reserves to 9 billion barrels, and we also have $267 million in our Sovereign Wealth Fund. I'll share the link to the Wealth Fund, to the website that gives us the Bank of Guyana quarterly report, which gives us information on the Wealth Fund. I'll put that link in the description below. But in the comments below, tell me what you think about the contract with ExxonMobil, with the fact that we're well on our way to $1 billion in our Wealth Fund, and the fact that we will be earning $1 billion every year going forward after 2022 because of the new oil wells discovered by ExxonMobil. So guys, there you have it. That's this update on Guyana's Sovereign Wealth Fund from the first quarter report for Bank of Guyana in 2021, and the fact that Exxon is now well on the way to pumping about 360,000 barrels per day in 2022, giving us the possibility of earning $1 billion a year from oil. In the comments below, tell me what you think about this update. Let me know what else you'd like to know about the state of affairs in the oil and gas industry, and share this video with friends and family around the world. Let people know what's happening here in Georgetown, Guyana. Later!